So, if you haven't guessed by the video title or even the first image that popped up on this video, well, Chucky's getting a reboot. Okay, so this is news that is admittedly quite old news. In fact, it's been around for, let's just say, over a year now, this news, and I've sort of just been forgetting about it or just been leaving it in the distance because, if I'm perfectly honest, I felt like it was going to go the same way that the Gremlins reboot, or the Gremlins 3 was going to go. I.e., they're going to talk about it loads and loads and then they're just going to cancel it and it's going to go really quiet. That's what I thought about this, especially considering the fact that Chucky, the Chucky movies, I should say, are still going on. Yes, the Chucky franchise is still alive and kicking. They've announced they're going to do a TV show, or at least a Netflix show, or whatever, and they want to do more films, continuing from Cult of Chucky. So the idea of making a reboot of the Chucky series, it's such a genius idea. Okay, so for those that don't know, I am quite a big Chucky fan, and obviously I enjoy the series. There's only really one film that I severely dislike, and that is Child's Play 3. The others I have no problem with. Even the comedies I actually don't have a problem with. Cult of Chucky I don't have a problem with. Even if there are some moments which I think, oh god, why? But the idea of this reboot is they want to change up, they want to reimagine Chucky, they want to open him up to the modern world, despite the fact that Chucky's still going on, but let's forget about that. And their idea is to make a gritty and dark and edgy reboot. You know, just like Nightmare on Elm Street, which went fabulously well, if you may remember, or It, which did go fabulously well. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, all these horror directors are so inspired by It's success that they want to do the same thing that It did. Reboot his famous icon, or famous movie, or famous book, or whatever. Horror icon, shall I just say. And make it as gritty and as dark and as edgy as possible. All while forgetting that it doesn't necessarily work all the time. With it sort of did work, but even then, if you thought about the audience and their interpretation, you'd see a more mixed picture. Just because it's a critical and financial success doesn't mean that it is a success overall. Yes, a film could be positive on both ends. I mean, Infinity War, for example, there's hardly any negative reviews or negative thoughts about that film. And even if there are, they're so tiny and so insignificant, they're basically squashed out of existence. And with this, it's a little bit different because you do have positive reviews, but you also have a lot of negative reviews, a lot of people that did not like it. And I, for one, was not really fussed about the film. I didn't think it was that great, personally. I never saw why everyone was saying, oh, it's great and all that. So, when it comes to Chucky, what I mean by this edgy, dark reboot, you may be thinking, well, that image, they definitely got the Chucky look, right, haven't they? I mean, he's got blue eyes, freckles, he's ginger. That's not what concerns me. It's not what they've made Chucky look like. I mean, Chucky looks fine, for me personally. I do think that he does look a little bit too creepy, considering the fact that in the first Child's Play film, they made an effort to try and make the doll, or the good guy doll, look as cuddly and as friendly as possible. With its smoother and cheerful look. Here it just looks so grainy, should I say, and so cracked. It looks like the fucking Annabelle doll almost. But like I said, that's not my problem. My problem is what they want to do. You see, what the wonderful makers of this film, or this reboot, have said is that they want to make significant changes to the Chucky or the Child's Play series. Those significant changes were, firstly, Chucky is not going to be possessed by a serial killer. Instead, he's going to be an animatronic toy that is built to be so realistic, to be built to be a learning robot essentially, and to basically learn how to murder and kill people and becomes a little bit AWOL. Want to know their reason for that? The reason why they changed it so it's not Charles Lee Ray who's doing all the murders. Oh no, it's a robot. You want to know their big reason for it? Their big reason is because it's unrealistic and they don't want any supernatural elements to the film. Yes, they are trying to stray as far away from being supernatural as possible, yet they have got a killer toy which is technically a robot which learns how to kill people, and yeah, that doesn't really work out at all. Whenever filmmakers say, oh, we want to go realistic, they don't ever really think about the word realism. Instead, they think being realistic is doing it completely different the other way. You know, as much as I love the Dark Knight trilogy, when Christopher Nolan said he wanted to do a more realistic Batman, there were a lot of elements that weren't realistic. I mean, the League of Shadows or League of Assassins, for example. Bane is another example. Batman, for fuck's sake. It's like, just don't use the word realistic. Don't try to be realistic. Why even bother trying to be realistic if it's not going to work out? Oh well. So the next thing that concerned me, or is concerning me about this reboot, was another little sentence about Chucky himself. So, the synopsis is, a woman buys a doll for her son, just like the first film. In fact, it's basically the first film remade to be more gritty and edgy, because that's all we want nowadays, isn't it? And to add on to the grittiness and the edginess, what they have said about Chucky himself is they want to be as different to the other Chucky, i.e. the Brad Dourif Chucky, and they want him to be devoid of any personality and emotion. Now, let's look back at Nightmare on Elm Street, that remake of Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, look at that and then look at Freddy Krueger in the original films. Freddy Krueger had a lot of charming, well, I wouldn't say charming, but had a lot of personality. He was very vibrant. You know, he wasn't necessarily that killer that was like so silent and he'd just stab you like that. No, he had a lot of personality. He was, sure, some would say he's a bit goofy, but at the same time, him toying with his victims before he kills them and constantly calling them bitch all the time, it made him memorable. It made him a likeable, well, I say likeable in the terms of a character, not necessarily as a person. I mean, technically no one liked Freddy, but nonetheless, it made him a likeable character. It made him enjoyable to watch. And one of the major criticisms of the reboot that they made a few years back was that Freddy had no emotion. He was not as memorable or as vibrant as the other Freddy. And what you're doing here, you're basically repeating history. You're going to make a Chucky, who, by the way, from the very first film has been noted as this loudmouth, a bit of a brash individual, constantly swearing, constantly being rude and obnoxious to other people. All while, you know, toying with his victims and laughing maniacally. You're going to get rid of that, or at least you're planning to get rid of that, because, you know, they might make a big change before the film gets released, wink wink. You're going to get rid of that for a emotionless, dull toy which kills people. You know, because that's memorable. Because these days, horror directors or horror films only concentrate on the horror aspect, and they never really concentrate on, the characters, the monster itself. Your big selling point is you want to be scary, but you never actually think about anything else. It's why so many horror films go for the jump scare route, because that's the only thing they think about. They only think about fear. And sure, that's what horror's about, being scary. But you know what? Dracula is a horror film. And it doesn't go ahead with all its scares and all that. It can go to a more psychological and even body horror at some points. And it's effective. Frankenstein, another example. You could argue it goes for a more mental route, because you see the downfall of this great scientist, or this scientist who was expected to do great things, and this is his downfall. He goes completely mad, and he's afraid of his own creation. His own creation causes all these problems, all because of what he, the scientist, had done. And that's horror. Horror is a funny word, because a lot of these modern directors think that horror is just to be scary and just to have big loud bangs and jump scares every second, but horror doesn't necessarily need to be like that. Horror can be more slow, more methodical, more silent. It can just be silent, and it just can make you feel creepy. Now, I'm not saying that's what Chucky or Freddy Krueger, for that matter, is like, because 80s sort of horror, which is around that era, well, definitely that era, was, 80s and 90s horror, went for more like over-the-top, exaggerated, but at the same time still keeping that element of fear. That element of a children's toy, coming up and stabbing you, or, when you're asleep at night, you're defenseless, you can't save yourself because you're asleep, and in your dreams you're getting murdered by this horrible, disfigured man. But no, we need an emotionless monster that could literally just be swapped out for anything else. And what's worse is, their idea isn't bad necessarily, but the fact that they have to use Chucky. You do realise Chucky isn't the only killer toy out there. Before Chucky there was a film called Dolls, which involved killer toys. In fact, before that there were plenty of films about killer toys. So why fucking bother using Chucky as your scapegoat? This is why people don't like reboots, because you have these ideas, but instead of actually utilising these ideas in a more original and vibrant format, you decide, we're going to butcher someone else's product. Butcher something that is even better. And, well, history repeats over and over again, and the same fucking pattern happens, and every time it fucking fails. It's rare for it to be a big success. And when it is, it's usually a reboot that has followed the original scene, frame by frame, scene by scene, every step of the way, all while keeping only a few tiny elements different. Which, in that sense, means why even bother making a remake when you could just watch the original? Yes, I'm not very happy, I'm not necessarily looking forward to it, and maybe I'm overreacting. In fact, I do think that my comments on Twitter were a little bit of an overreaction, but I still don't find myself anticipating it at all. I'll wait for it to be released, and who knows, it might shock me, it might be really good. Doubt it. And the fact that even the original Chucky creators and the actors and actresses have all slated the idea of this reboot, and have all said that it's a kick in the nuts, to quote one of them in particular, it's no wonder that many people, such as myself, are not looking forward to this reboot. And hearing what they have planned for it, yeah, I'm giving this a miss.